Hello, I'm Chris for FirstLight Optics, and in today's video I'm going to be running through how to build up one of our StellaLyra Dobsonian telescopes. Now, I've got the 10-inch model with me, and it comes in two boxes. The smaller of the boxes is got all the base panels and everything in, and the bigger box, as you can imagine, has got the tube and the side bearings in. So I'm going to start with the base box. So you've got the side panels and the front panel there. That is the eyepiece holder. These are the base panels, which work as the azimuth bearing, and that's the actual bearing itself. That is the screw and bearing that you tighten the base down with, that applies a bit of friction if you want it to be a bit stiffer when you're moving the telescope left and right. And we've got a couple of handles in there as well. So we've got some hardware there, including 3 rubber stoppers to go on the bottom of the telescope to prevent it from wearing. So that's that box empty. We'll put that aside. So we've got a bit of room to play with in my tiny mock recording studio here. So the first thing we want to start with is the very bottom baseboard, and I can tell that's the very bottom baseboard because it's got the brass screw in there. So we'll put that on the floor like that. The bearings go on there, the other circle goes on there, allows it to move left and right once it's got a bolt going through the center to keep everything in place. But before we do that, we just need to put our rubber feet. They just need a Phillips screwdriver, and we can tighten those down. Now, you may notice my bendy thumbs in this shot, and that's what I blame my terrible handwriting on, because imagine trying to hold a pen with thumbs that do that. So turn it over. So put a base plate there in the middle, and we're going to make a sandwich basically. See the recesses there? We want the bolts going through there into the side panels and the front panel. So before I do that, I think it's probably quite sensible to actually build this up with the side panels and the front panel, and then we can lower it down onto there and then put our center bolt and bearings all on, and that's pretty much the base complete then, apart from putting the handles on and the eyepiece holder. So with that in mind, I'm going to move this out the way and open up these. So I'm just making sure that front board's at 90 degrees to the baseboard. And if I can do this with my bendy thumbs, then I'm sure you'll be fine. Okay, so the next step is to get the side panels and just make sure you've got the holes in line with this board. So don't put them on the wrong way. Put your bottom bolts through and then realise that you've got your holes on the opposite side. So we want the sign on the outside. So that one's going to go that side, and this one's going to go this side. I'll start with this side actually. So yeah, we've got our holes lining up there. I'm going to start putting bolts in loosely and then tighten everything up at the end. Let's do the same this side. Right, let's turn that over then, and then we can do up the bolts at the bottom. think the reason you get quite a small Allen key is so you don't accidentally over tighten. So to recap where we are at the moment, we've got the baseboard, we've put the feet on, making sure the brass bushing is on the bottom side, the same side as the feet. And then we've built up the base here with the side panels and the front panel to make a solid rocker box. We're going to revisit those bearings. So metal plate, the Lazy Susan roller bearing, followed by, to complete the sandwich, another metal plate. And then there's a small metal tube that will fit down the middle to hold everything in place. So the next step is to lower the rocker box over that metal tube so it guides it down. But we want to hold it more securely than that, so we've got this centre bolt. Put a small washer on first, then the, I don't know if you can see that, the roller bearing will go on next. Small washer, roller bearing, then the big washer. So it looks like that. And then we can pop that on. Two holes in the side for the handles to go on either side. Now, when you're putting that bolt in, I recommend leaving it loose so you can guide the second bolt into the hole a bit more easily. Not quite finished there because we've got the tray for the eyepieces to pop on there. And it's easy to get that way round, but if you don't want the screws showing, the instructions show it going that way round, which is what I'll do. There's a separate bag with 2 screws for that. And there we have the rocker base, the Dobsonian mount, 100% complete. And we can move on to the other box now. Okay, so as soon as we open the box, we can see the instructions, which I've not been using up till now. But if you need them, they're there. And also, there's a digital copy online, which you can reach through our product page as well. So that's a battery pack for the fan that goes at the back of the mirror to help cool down the mirror, get rid of the warm air if you're taking the telescope from somewhere warm out into the cold. So we've got the StellaLyra extension tube. And there we have the 35, is it? Yeah, 35mm 2-inch extension tube with brass compression ring fitting, so not to mark your eyepieces. This one's got the big SuperView eyepiece next, 30mm, gives 42 times magnification with this telescope. Good for finding and framing larger deep sky objects. We've got the 9mm Plossl, 1.25 inch, and that will give 139 times magnification if you want closer views of things like craters on the moon and the planets, but the telescope is capable of going way beyond 200 times magnification when the seeing conditions allow, so you could buy a more powerful eyepiece than that and certainly use it. But to get you started with, there are eyepieces included, and I think we are including a 15mm as well. Okay. Next we have the 2 side bearings, which we'll look at more closely in a moment. And the optical tube has now got a handle on it. So there's a handle to grip the optical tube when you're installing it onto the mount. One more box in here. I should imagine this is the finder. And that will give a correctly orientated image that's the right way up. It's a 8x50 finder. Whew. Right. Okay, so at the bottom of the tube we've got the cooling fan and the battery to operate that, and the lead is here. It just plugs into there. And as you can see, you've got really nice chunky collimation knobs and knobs to lock the collimation in place, color coded so you can see which is which. So that's the black ones are the collimation and the white ones are the locking. It's factory collimated, but after going through the postal system, Newtonian telescopes do often need a bit of a tweak with the collimation. Right, so I don't know how clearly you can see this, but there's increments on this side panel, and this is for attaching the side bearings, and this allows you to basically move that up and down a little bit to help balance for heavier eyepieces and such. That oval bit's going to sit in the base, so you want that pointing towards the base or the bottom of the telescope tube. So let's put that in the middle position somewhere, and then we can adjust that as required once we start using the telescope. Make sure that curved bit's pointed towards the bottom of the optical tube, towards the base, and fitting it on. Worst case scenario is you just have to undo that and turn it the other way around, but you might as well just make sure you're doing it right as you're putting them on. Can be a little bit fiddly because you need to just line up the bolts with the captive nuts that are floating around inside those side panels, but you just have to lift this up and down until it lines up. Have a peek, make sure everything lines up with your eye. And again, I'm setting this to a neutral 0 position with the same amount of movement up and down the tube to begin with. Absolutely brilliant. Look how smooth that is. Right, next up we can put the right angle finder on. That will just slide onto the base. Just undo the single screw, slide it up, lock it into place. You can align the optics of the finder to the main telescope once you've got an eyepiece in there by adjusting these screws, which will adjust it up, down and left and right. Do that until both of these are lined up, and then you can use that to find objects before you view them with the eyepiece. If you're using a 1.25 inch eyepiece like the included 9mm, just pop it in like that. But if you're using the 2-inch one, you'd need to remove the 2-inch to 1.25 inch adapter, and also use the 2-inch extension tube. Lock that off, pop it into the focuser like so, and that will allow, because not all 2-inch eyepieces will reach focus without that extension tube, which is why it's included. On the underside we can do up the screw to lock the focuser in position if you want it locked, and there's a tension adjustment on the frontmost screw there. As mentioned at the beginning of the video, the same applies to the other sizes of StellaLyra Dobsonian, and to a great extent the Ursa Major line as well. And indeed, any of the Dobsonians are going to be put together in a similar fashion. So hopefully this serves as an overview of just how to put together a Dobsonian telescope. Okay, so thank you very much for watching, and we hope to see you on the next video.